right, so now let's talk to Kuzeha Secretary General Albert Njiru, who's now joining us from a city center studio, just to talk to us the way forward when it comes to that health stalemate that's happening at the Kenyatta National Hospital. And Mr. Njiru, thank you so much for joining us on KTN News Center. As we speak, what is the status? Have your, members heeded to your call?
As it stands now, all the workers of Kenyatta National Hospital are assembling at the counter, at the hall, at the ground, so that they can be able to exercise their mandates of striking against the management who have ignored to implement a circular, a sanctioned circular, executive circular, which was issued on 12th of September 2012. Therefore, our studies that unless the same is implemented into full, all the workers of Kenyatta National Hospital are not going back on duty. The reasoning behind that is only a simple one, that the circular, the executive circular which was issued on 12th of September 2012 was supposed to be implemented to all workers of Kenyatta National Hospital, starting from the CEO. Surprisingly, up and including today, it is only the CEO and his two deputies who are benefiting from the certain circular which was issued, irrespective of board sitting down in December 2012 and agreeing that the same should be implemented to the workers. Ironically, to date, and surprisingly, all the boards who have been enforced and everybody who has been in that office, they have ignored to implement the same. Until when the same information has come to our attention that Kenyatta National Hospital was recategorized from a grading of 3C to 7A, but the board and the management have been ignoring to implement the same and instead implemented for only the CEO. Then the question was, is it ignorance? Is it not an abuse of the office that they are not implementing the executive order? If state corporations and advisory committee advised the government and the government issued the circular, does it mean that somebody somewhere is ignoring the rights of the workers at the Kenyatta National Hospital? Are we not talking about somebody who is becoming ignorant of the law? And that's why the Kenyatta National Hospital employees, from the doctors and everybody else, are saying, unless the same is implemented to full and arrears paid by the end of this month, we are not going back on duty. Otherwise, we shall leave it to the CEO and his two partners, or two of his employees, to work at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Otherwise, they cannot be only the people who are becoming selfish to themselves. Since 2012, to date, been earning full implementation of the state corporations and advisory, which was done back in 2012. So the Kenyatta National Hospital's employees are now assembled, and they are still waiting for address from all relevant authorities, including the ministries, so that the issue can be addressed and can be agreed on. But we shall not go back on duty until when the same amount of money is fully implemented, the circular is fully implemented, so as we can also benefit like any other Kenyan who is supposed to be benefiting from the 7A state corporations advisory advice.
If I'm not wrong, I believe you can hear me from a city center studio. I mean, my colleague Caroline B, of course, has been following up on this story since the first day you issued a strike notice, and she's already at Kenyatta National Hospital. We shall be linking up with her later and just to confirm for us whether what you're telling us is actually true, that your workers are just waiting to be addressed. But back to my question, and you've said that the leadership of that hospital has never decided to heed to your call. And I believe you're also talking to the immediate former CEO, that is Richard Lesiampe, who was there, and now also the acting CEO who's there. But my question is, why do you think it's very hard for the hospital to actually implement the salary increment? Yet from your allegations, you're saying that the management has decided to go ahead and implement their own salary increment?
What we are saying is that it is very unfortunate that the management never informed us of the circular. When they received the circular, they decided to do it to yourself, and then that means they added to our attention. Not until this year, when the same has come to our attention, and we are very happy that the new constitution gives every Kenyan an opportunity to clear information, an opportunity to get the right information from the right orders of the same information. We are only saying that it is the duty of the management to make sure that the circular so issued back in 2012 for them to implement. If they implemented then to only one person who is the CEO and his deputies, then it's very unfortunate that they never did it to our workers or to the other rest of the employees as advised by the Ministry of Health, then the PS. So it is their duty to tell us why they have not been able to implement and why it has taken too long to advise the workers accordingly, and therefore the matter should have been listed then.
Njeru, what you're telling us is that when it comes to the housing allowances, all the allowances that the union wants, it's been implemented. The only issue you have with the management of KNH is the implementation of salary increments.
No, what I'm trying to tell you is that, for example, when you look at the circular issued, I think on the I think it's on last week, 6th of September, it says that there are two issues being listed in that circular which the acting CEO has issued to me and to the Secretary General. He has said that the arrears of house allowance which are supposed to have been implemented back in 2016 will be now paid by end of this month together with the September salary. Fortunately and unfortunately, we are only talking about certain grades in Kenyatta National Hospital who have been agitating for the same arrears, whereas the other people have gotten the same. This is grade 12 to grade 6, grade 11 to grade 7. This has been arrears which has been pending since 2016. What they have done today is they have tried to hoodwink us, the workers, and saying, we have been agitating for this house allowance arrears since 2016. And the management should tell you that we have been having a memorandum of understanding in 2018, the first one in March and the other one in August, that the same should have been implemented even last year. The delay of the management not being able to implement the house allowance arrears has been a reasoning which we have been always questioning. But we are aware the Minister of Finance have already now released the amount of money to pay the workers, those grades from K11 to K6 of the house arrears. But as long as the issue of recategorizing Kenyatta National Hospital from 3C to 7A, it meant that the salaries, the basic salaries and house allowances of Kenyatta National Hospital employees were supposed to go to a notch higher from 2012. Just like those workers who are working in Kenya Ports Authority, those who are working in Kenya Petroleum Authority, that is the grade of the 7A. Unfortunately, and this is where our concerns are, when the circular was issued, when the executive order was issued by state corporations through the IE, who is PS, unfortunately, the management decided not to implement.
All right, so Mr.
To the workers. They only implemented to the management.
All right, Mr. Njeru, let me just ask you, so will the strike actually, affect both the medical and non-medical staff who are not members of the union? Because so far we know that it's your union members who are supposed to heed to your call when it comes to the strike notice, but are other staff, medical staff at KNH also going to be affected?
My sister, let me assure you, when we are working and when we are agitating, we don't only agitate, we work for all the workers of Kenyatta National Hospital. We not only talk about union membership, because when what we always say, an injury to one is an injury to all.
All right, and lastly, Mr. Njeru, as we bring this conversation to an end, there was a circular, a memo that was issued by the acting CEO of KNH saying that they've received funds to actually, pay your union members when it comes to their demands. Doesn't that seem like a way forward, like there's light at the end of the tunnel? So is this appropriate for the union officials to actually call off this strike?
We are not going to call the strike until the management has told us exactly when they are going to implement the full advisory note, executive order, which was given back in 2012. Otherwise, we are ready to go back like yesterday. If the management came up with a way forward and now they are going to implement like the same, we are ready to go back. But we are not ready to go back if the management are only saying, if you look at the circular, that they want us to start negotiating. The question is, how do we negotiate an advisory note, executive order which has been given by the ministry that kindly implement the same? How do we negotiate such a thing?
What you're talking about over here...
We cannot negotiate something which...
All right, Mr. Njeru, what you're talking about over here is backdating your demands to 2016 June to 2019 June 30th, backdating it so that when it comes to payment, that is what you're supposed to be paid. But as we speak right now, have the union officials engaged the management of KNH and the Ministry of Health?
I'm aware that the Ministry of Health is now sending its troops to Kenyatta National Hospital, and they want to come and engage us, and we are ready to engage with them. But what we are saying is simple. The circular, the authority, the executive order given back in 2012, it meant that all the workers were supposed to get certain increments of salaries and house allowance in Kenyatta National Hospital as a result of recategorizing from 3C to 7A. And that amount of money which was supposed to be allocated then, we believe that amount of money is still there for us to getting that amount of money since 2012 to 2019. We are only agreeing, and we shall only agree if we come up with a certain formula of how they are going to implement the same, like they have already implemented to the CEO. Remember, the CEO got the same increment from 380 to 560, backdated from, and we are only saying, backdated from 1st of August 2012.
All right.
So we are calling for implementation.
All right. All right. So let's talk about, the resolutions from the State Corporation Advising Committee. Some of the resolutions that they had after KNH was, upgraded from 3A. And I know among, the resolutions was actually house allowance, salary increment for your staff, for the KNH staff who are members of your union. Apart from those two, what was some of the resolutions that have not been implemented?
There is the leave allowances, there is risk allowances, there are extraneous allowances. These are monetary gains where the workers should have benefited since then.
So in all these allowances that you've mentioned, Mr. Njeru, and of course the salary increment, what has not been implemented? Because so far I know that KNH has actually, implemented the house allowance.
They have implemented the house allowance, but what we are saying is the basic salaries has not been implemented to date. And this is one of the issues now which is carrying, this is the relevant in the House.
Salary has not been implemented. We are backdating it to 2012 and not 2016. And when you're backdating it from 2012, yes, when you're backdating it from 2012 to 2019, 30th of June, how much are we talking about?
You know, as far as we are concerned, we have not, it is the duty of the management to tell us the amount of money, not us to tell them the amount of money.
All right. Thank you so much, Albert Njeru, the Secretary General of KUDHEHA. And of course, he is the person who called for that workers' strike at the Kenyatta National Hospital. And my colleague Caroline B has been following up on this story ever since it started, and we'll be linking up with her later on just to tell us the kind of what's happening on the ground, especially at the Kenyatta National Hospital. And of course, as Mr. Njeru has also told us, the Minister of Health has actually sent officials to KNH to try and have a dialogue with the union officials just to try and find the way forward so that patients at KNH will not be affected by this strike that actually kicked off at midnight. Now,